Hi everybody, welcome back to From Scratch with Love. It's been a while. This is our 10,000 subscriber special. We should have done this 6 months ago, but Anyway, we're doing something truly special for you guys in this video, and that is 100% authentic Japanese Wagyu A5 beef. Stick around, you are absolutely gonna love it.
Alright, so what's so special about this beef? And you see it on a lot of channels and you see a lot of people talking about it. Well, in a nutshell, this is the most rare beef in the world. And when I say rare, I don't mean a doneness, I mean the most difficult to get. It is imported from Japan. It's only from Japan. When you see Wagyu on a menu in the United States or most places, typically that's from Australia, or American Wagyu beef, which is a cross between Black Angus and Japanese cattle. This, however, is directly from the source. It is unique. It is totally its own thing. And what's interesting, and what we're going to do today, is cook this in its own fat. It's the only thing you should ever cook it in. If you see somebody else doing it another way, and I may reiterate this later, but you don't do that. Anyway, I'm going to take this out of the plastic wrap, the vacuum seal, because that is the first step.
Okay, so as you can see here, what you need to cook one of these guys is something called a teppanyaki griddle. In Japan, or even in high-end restaurants here in the United States, you'll see either a stainless steel or an aluminum one, or what's very popular, which is a hot stone. This one is carbon steel, and it has a non-stick coating on it. The reason you want to use something like this is because you don't want it to get it too hot. The thing about this meat, and as you can see here, I've taken it out of the plastic wrap, as we said in the voiceover. That's the first thing you want to do. But you'll notice the color's already changed, okay? And that's doing something called blooming. So typically when you take a steak out, okay, it's going to change color briefly. The color, the red is going to deepen, all right? But with this intermuscular fat, okay, is almost like butter. And if you've ever worked with foie gras or anything like that, this is very, very similar. This fat basically, melts on contact. And when you want to, when you need to cook this stuff, you really need to use something that doesn't get above about 450 Fahrenheit on the surface. Because if you go past that, this will just burn and melt. Okay. So here's the first thing we're going to do. This is the knife I'm going to use. This is a sushi slicing knife. This is a 9-incher. And then this is called a soto. It's a Japanese knife. First thing we want to do, okay, is get the fat we're going to use off of this beef, because we don't want to cook it in anything other than its own fat. Now this has been out of the fridge now for 15 minutes or so. And we're going to leave it until it sits, until it comes up to very close to room temperature, but not exactly. So this is the fat we're going to use. And you see this big hunk right here. We don't want to eat that anyway, so we're just going to go ahead and take our soto and cut that off. All right. Now this, okay, we'll use this for something else later. But this, okay, is going to be our cooking medium. Okay. With this guy, we're just going to take little shavings like this, okay, and we're going to put them onto the griddle. All right. As the griddle heats up, this will literally melt. Okay. So this is going to take a while, but when it's ready to go, this fat will be nice and melted, and then I'll show you how to do the next part. All right. So as this is still melting down here, I'm going to show you how to cook the rest of this. Now, this is a 16-ounce, so 1-pound ribeye, and it's pretty thin. But the thing with this steak is that you can't eat all of this. It is so rich. All of this fat. Oh, shite. Go butter. Anyway, so all of this fat, it's too thick for you to eat. So you just want to cut off portions. And if you ever eat this in a restaurant, they're going to sell it by the ounce. So maybe a 2 ounce minimum or a 3 ounce minimum, something like that. So this would be 4 portions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's 4 ounces a piece. So what we're going to do, okay, to make this consumable, I'm going to cut off this fat here, okay, and then we're going to cut off this meat, because this fat we're going to save and use for other things. This is great for cooking other things in it, making eggs with it. It's delicious. All right, so that's one of our pieces. And now we're going to do this, and just one stroke through. You see how quick, how easily that knife goes through there? That is something that you don't see with American beef or anything like this. Now, we don't want to trim it too much. All right, so we just want to get a little bit of this off, because we don't want to eat that. Okay. All right. Now that's it. That's all we're going to be eating. This is roughly a 3 ounce portion of beef. Now, this is going to be roughly equivalent to eating like a 16 ounce steak. So that's what we're going to do today.
I'm just going to speed through the rest of this because you've seen me season things about 100 times. But basically what we're going to do here is just season this with salt. That is a very mild salt. I'm using some sea salt there, and that's all you should ever put on this. Don't put garlic powder on it. Don't put pepper on it. You don't need it. Now, interestingly, since you're cooking at such a low temp, pepper won't burn, but this does not need any help from anybody at all. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to cook it.
This steak is probably somewhere around $300. Anyway, as this heats up, we're going to temp it here. Okay, so we are at right at 400 degrees, so we just have a little bit more to go. And you can see that fat starting to just melt. Okay. Now, I'm not dabbing anything up with this paper towel. That's what's really interesting about this stuff. Next thing we're going to do is we want to get something non-abrasive so we don't break the beef. Okay. And that is these silicone tongs here. All right. As our plancha heats up, or teppanyaki heats up, or plancha in Spanish. Okay. And now, all we have to do is wait for this fat to turn the right color. You can see how brown it's getting, but you can also see it releasing more and more oil. Now we're going to put one more piece there. We just need a little more greasing. But you can see as this stuff is, we've been leaving it out here, how it's kind of melting, right, at room temp. What's interesting about this meat is that it blooms and kind of looks like a rose, right? So what we're going to do is cook this, sear it on one side, sear it on the other side, sear it on all sides. Then we are going to rest it, and then we are going to sear it again, and then we're going to rest it again, and then we're going to sear it again, and we're going to cut it into servable slices. Okay. Now the thing is, we're not going to cook this past about rare, but it's going to happen so fast. That's why we're going to do this all in one take. Okay, here we go. So our teppanyaki here is all right, we're 450 right in the middle. So here we go. Here's our piece. Sizzle. All right. And this is just like cooking a piece of ahi tuna. Okay, so you want, it's going to cook about that fast too, amazingly. So we're going to let that sear, and you can kind of see, just like when you're cooking tuna or a piece of fish, you can see the sear start to come up around the outside of the beef, okay, as that fat starts to come out of it. Okay, if you see people on their channels or on their cooking shows or whatever, cooking this with oil or with, on a grill or something like that, it's not that you can't do that, it's just that you really shouldn't, because it can harm this meat. Okay, so we have one side, all right, now the other side. Now what we're doing here, you'll notice it's not totally nutty brown yet. That's because we're going to sear this multiple times. Okay, what this is effectively doing is just kind of getting some of the moisture off of that steak, okay? And then we're going to sear the edges. Okay. And you'll notice it's pretty, even though you're only working at 450 here, it's easy to still touch this. It's not too hot. All right. And now we're going to take this off and we're going to let it rest. Okay, we're going to let our teppanyaki come up to a higher temp again. Okay, because it's going to be cooled down just a little bit. And we're going to do one additional step that you may never see people do. We're just going to dab this, okay, and get a little moisture off of the top of the meat, okay, before we return it to the heat itself, so we can get a nice, really nice and crusty sear. A lot of places you'll go, they'll refer to like a triple seared Wagyu, and this is kind of how they do that, where they'll sear it first or they'll sous vide it to a certain doneness, and then they'll throw it on the griddle, sear it once, then sear it twice, and then another time, and then maybe once more if they blowtorch it or something for service. Okay, now you see how delicate that is? How it's almost falling apart? That's why we can't cook this too long or it's literally going to melt. Okay, so after this is done here, it's going to be about another minute per side. We're going to take it off and put it on our platter here. You may have seen me use these before. And, okay. All right, there we go. You see the nuttiness, the brown there? That's what we're looking for. But because we did that first sear like that, we got that moisture off. We were able to get a dry surface. Okay. Now that needs about another 45 seconds or so, and that's it. That's all we're gonna do. Okay. There's really nothing else to this. It's the simplest, it's the most expensive beef you'll ever eat, but it's also the simplest to make. Okay, and there we go. Now the other thing too is doneness. If you're feeling for doneness on this, it's different than a normal steak, okay? Because it is so soft, a medium rare is going to feel very close to a rare or even, a raw piece of meat. So now we've got that done. We're going to let this rest for a few minutes. And now I'm going to show you something else that they do with this in a lot of restaurants. Or, if you want to, mess around a little bit. The little cubes we cut earlier. Okay, so if you ever go to a Japanese steakhouse, you'll see them make cube steaks out of, filet mignon or anything like that. Now, the reason you're doing it, you can put these in salads, you can put these on sticky rice, like sushi rolls, and that does happen a lot. But these little cubes are really good just for kind of snacking and to use as kind of an appetizer, like over a really light crostini, which is pretty cool. But because these are so small again, and it's the same technique, right? And I know I'm rambling, but this is just so cool. Okay, so now this is smaller, and it's been sitting out a little bit longer, so it's going to cook faster, okay, than our other piece. And we may not even have to do this twice. Okay, 1 and 2. Okay, and that's it. All right, so now this has been resting. What I'm going to do now is take the rest of this and put it in an airtight container, put it in the fridge, and after I've done with that, this will be rested and I'll show you how to slice it. Okay, all right, so we have our final product here. I did break out the chopsticks for this. Anyway, so I have this. What I have here, I'd have some scallops that I made earlier today and some rice. This is some gluten-free soy sauce. Interesting thing, since we've never really done that on this show before. If you are a celiac, regular soy sauce has wheat in it. So you need to buy something like this, okay, which is just pure soy extract that doesn't have wheat. It's not brewed. Anyway, so in here I have some sesame oil and rice wine vinegar to go with this. You really need something to cut through this heavy fat on this. And you'll notice that there's... Sorry. Okay, that's unbelievable. You know, what's great about this is that as you cook it, you know how we cooked it pretty quickly, right? It's almost like beef flavored butter as it hits your mouth. Now, not everybody likes the white wine vinegar thing. I do, but there is not a chance you guys are going to get any of this. No. No matter how much you give me those puppy eyes. Miss Gracie wants some Wagyu. She's not going to get any. Anyway, thank you for sticking around for the 10,000 subscriber special. I hope you have a wonderful day.